I'm not bringing this up because I think this is true and that this is going to happen. I'm just bringing this up because I wanted to ask a question. And I know it's on the terrible topic that everybody hates talking about. This is the most redundant, most pointless idea that has just been squeezed and wrung out through the cloth that is the NHL media so much that it leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth the second it is brought up. Which is why I'm bringing it up once again. On The Athletic, Tony Abbott of the Minnesota Wild portion of The Athletic wrote about Nylander. Now this paragraph that I'm reading is from Spectre's Hockey because I don't have an Athletic subscription, so I can't really read that. I know, it sucks. Like, I couldn't read up on the Provies anymore, or the Athletes for Vancouver fans, but Tony Abbott makes the case for the Minnesota Wild to make a pitch for Nylander if the Leafs aren't able to resolve the contract situation. Take a look at the last few words of that sentence, if the Leafs aren't able to resolve the contract situation. So this is all a hypothetical, it all depends on one thing that we don't know if it's happening or not. That is the contract. If it doesn't go through, this is what Tony Abbott thinks the Wild should pitch. So that's just adding layers of security onto this whole discussion here as to why this is not a terrible discussion to have. Bringing in Nylander could provide the Wild with a game-breaking young star. Okay, that's pretty true. Abbott suggests a package of defenseman Jared Spurgeon and winger Nino Niederreiter might tempt the Leafs. Nylander would be an upgrade over Niederreiter, though parting ways with Spurgeon could be a risky move for the Wild. This is an idea that, upon reading this, as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I looked at this and I was like, man, this is a tough one. This is indeed a tough one, because if this one, assume this one goes through, assume this one is a definite yes, the right side of our decor looks better. Jared Spurgeon is a legit top 4 NHL D-man, consistent 35-plus point guy, and he's small, on top of being a good two-way puck-moving presence. He's a player that the Leafs could benefit from, and a player who could definitely get more points if he was on a Toronto Maple Leafs team on the right side. On top of this, Nino Niederreiter, who's been in the position where people are starting to look down upon him like, man, he's not really being the same player that he was a few years ago. A trade to Toronto could provide a brand new opportunity to revitalize his career. Now, Niederreiter is listed as a left winger, but he's also able to play the right wing. So automatically he takes up that Nylander, Tyler Ennis spot with Austin Matthews and, let's just say, Patrick Marleau. Now that leaves a few more questions. What about Kasperi Kapanen? Maybe Kapanen stays on that Matthews line, maybe Niederreiter slots in on the left wing of that line, and Marleau goes down to Kadri's line? Who knows? There's so many opportunities to play with the lines here if Niederreiter was put into the system. But if you're a Leafs fan and you listen to this and you heard, okay, Spurgeon and Niederreiter for William Nylander, is that something that you would have said yes to right away? The paragraph that I read talked about how Abbott believes this deal could tempt the Leafs. Not necessarily that this is a deal that everybody would be looking at and saying, yes, that's a good one, do it! Because that's obviously not the case here. Another thing to consider is the whole offer sheet angle of Nylander. He's asking for a contract that is most likely going to be above $6 million, right? Because $6 million is the compensation bookmark for return if a team offer sheets Nylander. If Nylander gets signed by another team to an offer sheet for above $6 million, they have to give up a first, second, and a third. So, just assuming that this is an equal comparison here, would it be fair to assume that Spurgeon and Niederreiter are worth the same as a William Nylander, or translated into an offer sheet as a first, second, and third? Are Spurgeon and Niederreiter together worth a first, second, and a third? I don't think so. And by definition, I don't believe that this is a trade that would go through. Obviously, there are interesting pieces here, but Spurgeon plus Niederreiter, I think you might have to add, like, a maybe prospect or a later pick in order to actually make this one considerable. This isn't an attack on Abbott of The Athletic, this is just discussing his idea. And I know, I mentioned it at the beginning of this video. This topic has been discussed from so many different perspectives, and everybody has their own opinion on this, and I've made a few videos on this already. It's just, I get really into it when we talk about potential trades, and when guys who are getting paid to write hockey news are the ones spitting out trade ideas with different teams. That's when I'm like, okay, this one's kinda interesting now, isn't it? I talked about this from the Carolina perspective, and I talked about Pesce and all that. Pesce plus for Nylander. Obviously, this is not me saying that I believe Nylander is going to be traded. I think this is going to stay within the Leafs organization for a while. But it was just interesting to me, the perspectives brought onto us by this Minnesota Wild perspective here. Spurgeon and Niederreiter for Nylander? I don't think so. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're blessing with Troll's like Snag Gaming, and bye.